Participants, we request your support in this regard. The webinar will start sharply by 7:05. Certificates of participation will be only given to participants who attend the webinar completely and fill the feedback forms that will be sent at the end of the webinar. So kindly request your friends to join the webinar, as the feedback form will be sent only during the webinar and not anywhere else.
Good evening to everyone present, and my special greetings to our honorable speaker of today, Dr. Shalu Nigam ma'am. It is my absolute pleasure to welcome you all to the webinar hosted by the TNLRC. Today's theme for the webinar is the 15 founding mothers of the Indian Constitution. Women belong in all places where decisions are being made is a quote I came across recently, and I stand by it. This session is not just about history, but about reclaiming recognition and celebrating the legacy of women who helped script India's constitutional identity. The theme is very inspiring, intriguing, and sounds very, very personal to me, and I hope it is the same to all of you as well. On that note, I know that all of us are excited to hear from our honorable speaker on this topic. I am too. But before that, I would like to take a moment to introduce the Tamil Nadu National Legal Rights Consortium to all of you, and would also like to introduce the honorable speaker to all of you. For that, I hand it over to Ramya, a very beloved member of TNLRC, to brief us on the works of Consortium.
Good evening, respected Speaker, Advocate Dr. Shalu Nigam, distinguished participants, members of TNLRC, and everyone present here. Myself, R. Ramya, a member of the outreach team at the Tamil Nadu Legal Rights Consortium. The Tamil Nadu Legal Rights Consortium, operating under the National Legal Rights Consortium of Women's Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industry bridges the gap between legal rights and real-world access to justice with a special focus on women and marginalized communities. The consortium advocates for legal rights and reforms by leading rights awareness campaigns and community outreach. We undertake legal education through social media and organize events such as the webinars, competitions, interactive activities with law students, and members of allied communities through event management. We work to facilitate pro bono legal support through an advocate network and collaborate with legislators and government bodies. Our central aim and vision revolve around making justice more accessible to those who need it the most. Our outreach team has efficiently completed its first program in the Aarti Old Age Home on 15th March and is about to organize an outreach program in an orphanage on March 29th, and our team has fixed several outreach programs for the month of April. Our social media team has been very active in spreading awareness in platforms like the LinkedIn and Instagram. Our social media team has posted on many topics like the Zero Discrimination Day, Women and Agriculture in India, Statement of Condemnation of the Transgender Bill, Persons Protection of Rights Amendment Bill 2026. Our event management team has conducted the brochure making competition in February and is set to organize a legal quiz on April 22nd. Our team has also organized today's webinar successfully. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ramya, for your brief introduction. Now, I would like to hand it over to Shrutika, also a beloved member of TNLRC, to introduce our honorable speaker for the day.
Good evening to everyone present here. It is both an honor and privilege to stand before you today to introduce our distinguished speaker, Ms. Shalu Nigam ma'am. Ms. Shalu Nigam ma'am is a highly accomplished academic and a renowned legal expert, researcher, and social activist who has made significant contribution in the field of social legal studies. She holds a PhD and a master's degree in social work from Jamia Millia Islamia University. She also pursued her LLB from Delhi University and holds a bachelor's of Science degree from Lady Irwin College, Delhi University. Additionally, she is a certified professional from PI Worldwide, reflecting her strong and diverse academic foundation. She began her professional journey with the United Nations High Commissioner of Refugees in Delhi, where she gained valuable experience in working on humanitarian and legal issues. Over the years, ma'am has built a rich and diverse career working with non-profit organizations, government institutions, think tanks, research bodies, and corporate sectors. Her work reflects a deep commitment to justice, equality, and legal empowerment. Her areas of expertise include legal literacy, paralegal training, gender sensitization, prison reforms, legal aid, and social legal research. She has also contributed extensively by designing training modules and manuals to promote legal awareness. Ma'am has been recognized for her academic excellence and was awarded a senior fellowship by the Indian Council of Social Science Research, New Delhi. She is also a recipient of the UGC NET Fellowship. She is a TEDx speaker and was invited by Symbiosis Institute of Business Management, Bengaluru, where Shalu Nigam ma'am delivered an insightful talk on demystifying the power of law. Her global engagement includes being invited as a guest speaker at the University of New South Wales, Sydney, where Shalu Nigam ma'am addressed critical issues related to dowry violence and law. She has also presented a research at international conferences, including a paper on Beijing 25 plus, battling the backlash in the post-COVID world, highlighting women's rights from a global perspective. In addition to her academic and professional achievements, Shalu Nigam ma'am has participated in international legal programs, gaining insights with clinical legal education on Washington Law College. Her work continues to inspire many in the field of law and social justice. Adding to her remarkable profile, Shalu Nigam ma'am currently serves as the founding member of the Indian Renaissance Club and as the Vice President of the People's Union for Civil Liberties. She is also a member of the Board of Trustees and Secretary at the Indian Renaissance Institute and a visiting senior fellow at IMPRI Impact and Policy Research Institute. With over a decade of experience, Shalu Nigam ma'am has been actively working as an advocate, researcher, and activist since 2010, focusing on gender, law, governance, and human rights. She is also the founder and director of the We the People platform, where she leads initiatives on legal awareness and social legal research. Previously, she has served as the secretary of PUCL and has also worked as a senior research fellow with ICSSR. Earlier in her career, she held the position of Head of Corporate Affairs and HR at DP World. With a great respect and admiration, I now request everyone to join me in extending a warm and gracious welcome to Ms. Shalu Nigam, ma'am, as we invite her to share her valuable insights with us. Thank you, ma'am.
First of all, good evening to all of you, and I would like to thank the organizers, for organizing this wonderful event, and I could get this opportunity to talk to you about this important topic. And thank you, Shrutika, for such a wonderful, the presentation of my journey. So, without wasting any time, I'll just come to this presentation, which is about founding mothers. Now, why we are calling them founding mothers? Now, we all have heard about founding fathers, that, who has written the Constitution of India. We read in school, we have Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, we have Jawaharlal Nehru, we have Sardar Patel, and various other people who have, in schools, they teach us that these are the people who have written the Constitution. But what they forget is about the founding mothers, that there were 15 women who were selected for writing the Constitution, and they present the entire, from different parts of India, they came together and they made important contribution. So I will request you that I'll talk about these 15 women, but you just keep patience with me, because I know it's very difficult to keep our attention in this world of scrolling and 2 minutes videos. So it'll take some time, but yeah, we'll talk about these 15 women. So who were they? No. Yeah, so we have to go back to the colonial times, around 150 years back, when we have British rule in India, and the women that time were agitating about, the kind of problems they were facing, and there was several magazines which were coming out, like Nari Shiksha and Roshni. And this is the quote from one of that magazine called Nari Shiksha. And this was, coming out from Calcutta. And I just quote one line: "Free bird, how do you hope to be happy within the cages? Imprisoned, you have forgotten your own speech, and you repeat words of other mindlessly." So they were talking about patriarchy and misogyny, and as it is happening now, but women were talking about these concerns. So at that point of time, we have 3 women organizations. We have very smaller women organizations in every state, but there were 3 major at the national level. The one is Women Indians Association in 1917. It was formulated by Annie Besant, and this organization advocated for women's education and political representation of women. In 1927, Margaret Curzon established All India Women Conference, and National Council of Women in India was founded in 1925 by Lady Aberdeen. Now, they were talking about a lot of issues such as child marriage, Parda, and a lot of other issues. But then they conducted a survey across India, and it was a British India. And they wrote a report about women's role in planned economy, because they understood that India is going to get independence, and we have to start with a new nation, and what should be the role of women in that new nation. So they came out with a report, and I'm just reading 4 points, 4 recommendations which they have given in the report. It's a huge report. You can search it on the internet. Now, the 4 recommendations they have said is that women's place should be equal to that of man. Equal status, equal opportunities, and equal responsibilities shall be the guiding principles. Women shall not be excluded from any sphere of work, merely on the grounds of her sex. Marriage shall not be the condition precedent to the enjoyment of its equal civic status or social and economic rights. And the state shall consider the individual as a basic social unit. Now, till then, it was the family or the community. And even now, as you're seeing that, within the debate regarding uniform civil code, we are talking about Hindus, Muslims, and all kind of communities. But during that 1939 report, they have very specifically clarified that individual should be the basic social unit, and not the family, not the community. So they drafted an Indian Women's Charter of Rights and Duties in 1946, and this charter went to the United Nations conference also. At the time when a Universal Declaration of Human Rights was also, they were when the people across the nation, they were talking about making of Universal Declaration of Human Rights. So this charter went over there also. Now this charter is available on the internet right now. But basically, this document called for adopting universal adult franchise, equal pay for equal work, strike down discriminatory marriage and inheritance rights. It also places a duty on the state to ensure the financial security, education, and health of women. It recognizes household work, and but you have to understand the social and political context. Now, in the Constituent Assembly, which is consisting of 299 members, only 15 were women. Such a small percentage. And during that time, we have this colonial oppression was going on. We have partition and communal rights which were going on. There was global dynamics, were operating. We have the World War One and Two. Those things were taking place, and at the same time, people were talking about peace and universal declaration of human rights. And then India also have other kind of problems where we have multiple provinces. So the leaders have to see that how to bring together all these provinces together, and what should be the idea of India, which we will be having once India become a new independent free state. So I'll just go into the names and a brief about these women. I will go alphabetically. So first is Amu Swaminathan. She was born in Kerala, and in 1917 she started working with Kamla Devi Chattopadhyay, Annie Besant, and other women. She started working with Women's India Association. It was the largest women organization, and they tried to tackle the social issues such as child marriage and Devdasi practice. She was elected to Constituent Assembly from Madras in 1946, and she spoke within the Constituent Assembly. She was advocating for fundamental rights and directive principles. Post-independence, she was elected to the first Lok Sabha in 1952 and subsequently to Rajya Sabha. And she also became vice president of the Federation of Film Societies and Censor Boards. So this is one of the quote which I have taken, for what she has spoken in the Constituent Assembly. There is this entire speech of 15 women, which is available on the internet. You can search for it. So I've just taken this one quote from there. So she was saying that Constitution rests on two pillars: fundamental rights and directive principles, and how fundamental rights are important to the people of India. And most important fundamental rights, according to her, is freedom of association and worship. So, so if you just read it, and you'll find it very interesting. If you compare, to what is happening today in politics. So I find my sanity, reading all these speeches and about these women. So second woman was Annie Mascarenhas, and she was born in Trivandrum. Mascarenhas represented the princely state of Travancore and Cochin, and she spoke on the issue of federalism. She was a member of Travancore Cochin Legislative Assembly, and she later became the minister in charge of health and power. She was elected to first Lok Sabha as an independent candidate, and then she was the first woman from Kerala to have been elected to Lok Sabha, and she raised concern about underrepresentation of women in politics. So the issue she raised is about how our democracy was facing a lot of problems, and what are the requirements of successful democracy. So she said that we are the beginning of nation building, and we have to survive as a nation. So the question of nation is also important in terms of international conflicts which were going on at that point of time. So therefore she suggested that the center should be strong so as to kill the autonomy of local governments. So she was talking about the relationship between the center and the state. Then we have Begum Ejaz Rasool. She was born in a princely family in Punjab, and she was involved in politics at very young age because her father was, a great politician, and she served as his secretary. And she was the first, like the only Muslim woman who was, representing the Muslim community. So Rasool defied traditional norms like Parda system, and she stepped into electoral politics in 1937, and she was elected, like later she was elected to Rajya Sabha and become a member of Legislative Assembly of Uttar Pradesh. So she was talking about reservation of seats for Muslims, and that the whole question of reservation. Now at that point of time, these women were thinking that once we are talking about equality in the constitution, so once we write equality, we will have equality. Everyone will be treated as equal. So we don't want reservation neither for Muslims nor for women nor for any marginal communities. But for past 70 years, what we have seen is that despite we have this constitution is guaranteeing our the right to equality. But it's on paper. In actual practice, there is a lot of gap. So but women during that point of time, they thought that once we'll write equality and there will be equality and we don't need reservation. So she said that power is derived from the people, and it is the people who will make or mar the destiny of India. The next person is Dakshayani Veludan, and she was born in Ernakulam district in Kerala, and she belonged to a Dalit community, the Pulaya community, which was facing a lot of problems because of oppressive caste system. And in her biography titled "The Sea Has No Caste," she has written the entire issues she was experiencing at that point of time. So she participated actively in civil disobedience movement, and she was very vocal about the caste oppression. And she was elected to Constituent Assembly from Madras constituency. And at the age of 34, she was one of the youngest and the only Dalit woman member of the Constituent Assembly. And later, she, along with her husband, they make the first Dalit couple in the parliament. So she was talking about Harijans, as Gandhiji has said, he has given this word of Harijan. And so these women, they were using that word. So she was talking about, how Harijans are being oppressed. They were not, there was trafficking in human beings, trafficking going on. There was the problem of bonded labor being going on. They were, forced to do a lot of work and not given any remuneration or wages. So she was talking about, all those. So this has found place in Article 17 of the Constitution. Then we have G. Durgabai. She was born in Rajamundry, Kakinada, and she was involved in the Indian freedom movement from a very young age. In May 1930, she participated in assault satyagraha in Madras and was imprisoned in 1930 and 1932. She was elected to Constituent Assembly from Madras province, and she made several key interventions on the issues like national language, judicial independence, and human trafficking. After independence, she was a part of key national organizations such as Central Social Welfare Board and National Council for Women's Education. She also became the member of Planning Commission, and in 1958, she headed the National Committee on Girls and Women in School Education. So what she talked about, the independence of judiciary, she said that the courts are, they play an important role in enforcing the constitution. They are the guardians of fundamental rights, and every common man must look to these courts for fair treatment and justice. So therefore, the judiciary must be independent. And even on the Devdasi and other kind of customs, she said that these kind of customs are going against the people's rights. So these should be eliminated. Then we have Hansa Jivaraj Mehta. Mehta was born in Surat, Gujarat. She became a member of Bombay Legislative Council in 1937 and became the president of All India Women's Conference in 1946. In 1946, she also joined UN Committee on Status of Women and served as Vice Chancellor for the Committee on Universal Declaration of Human Rights. In the assembly, she strongly argued in favor of women's rights and intervened in debates on uniform civil code and reservation. Now, if you read the language of Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the Article 1 says, all human beings are born free and equal. But before this human being, this term, this phrase was used, it said that all men are born free and equal. But she went and she insisted that no, the man, that word should be replaced by human beings. Now, Eleanor Roosevelt, who was the chairperson of that committee, she said that, but man is, commonly used because that point of time, man was commonly used and that include women. So she said that man is fine. But Hansa Mehta insisted, she said, no, it should be replaced by human beings. And finally, they replaced this term. And today we know that so many movements, like disability movement, like transgender movement, like LGBTI movement. Now we are using this language, all human beings are born free and equal, and we are using this language across the world for strengthening our movements. So later, Mehta was appointed to the first Vice Chancellor of Maharaja Sayaji Rao University of Baroda. So she talked about the Constitution, the fundamental rights, the preamble, and most importantly, the Common Civil Code. Now, to those women, they thought that Common Civil Code, will eliminate all kind of practices such as, parda and child marriage and devdasi. And they said that, to eliminate all form of discrimination from all communities, we will have a Common Civil Code. So at that point of time, it was not politicized. It was, just the very general intention of these women that, that we should have Common Civil Code. And then she said that the goodness or badness of a constitution should depend on how it is going to work. If it works in the interest of the people, it will be a good constitution. If it works otherwise, it will be a bad constitution. So the responsibility, therefore lies with the people. Then the next person is Kamala Chaudhary. She was born in Lucknow. She was an active member of Indian National Congress and an elected member of Provincial Congress Committee. She was elected to Constituent Assembly from the United Province, which is now Uttar Pradesh. And she was a member of the Provisional Parliament and acted as Senior Vice Chair of 54th National Congress session. She was, very fond of writing, and she has done, some literally, some of the novels and stories are being published. But she was not very vocal. But many of these women used to write notes and, submitted before different committees, which were formulated. For example, a Fundamental Rights Committee was constituted, and for different issues, different committees were formulated. So these women, even if they were not speaking before, the assembly, they were writing notes. Now, you have to also imagine the kind of, atmosphere which was existing at that point of time. There's a lot of patriarchy, there's a lot of misogyny, and among 299 men, there were just 15 women were sitting, and then, the male gaze, we're talking about the kind of language which is being used today, as you see in our parliament, and they were facing all, and still they were talking about, the fundamental rights and preamble and the directive principles. So that is something which is I find it very interesting. Then the next person is Leela Roy. Leela Roy was born in Gopalpara, Assam, and she encouraged and promoted women's participation in social and political movements. She founded Dipali Sangha in 1923. Now, this organization educates and trains women on social and political issues. She was elected to Constituent Assembly from Bengal and resigned within a few months, after that. And she was protesting against the partition of India, and therefore she resigned. Later, she became chairwoman of Forward Bloc and Praja Socialist Party. So she didn't work for long, in the Constituent Assembly. Next person is Malti Chaudhary. She was born in Calcutta to a family of politicians. Chaudhary moved to Odisha in 1927. She was engaged in grassroots work for underprivileged communities. She was a Marxist and a woman freedom fighter, and she was fighting for oppressed communities in Odisha. And she was elected to Constituent Assembly from Odisha on Congress ticket, but she resigned, very quickly, because she said, she felt unfit for the work, because she wanted to work at the grassroots, and she wanted to work with farmers, Dalits, tribals, and children. In 1948, Malti, along with other freedom fighters, they formed Utkal Navjeevan Mandal in Odisha. Now, she also became the president of Odisha Civil Liberty Committee. She strongly opposed the emergency in 1975, and then she was imprisoned then also. Then we have next person is Punyama Banerjee. She was born in Kalka, Punjab. She was involved in freedom struggle and took part in individual satyagraha and Quit India movement. She was a member of Congress Socialist Party and Indian National Congress. As a secretary of Allahabad City Congress Committee, Banerjee worked towards creating rural engagement and conducting meetings with Kisan Sabhas and trade union. She was elected to Constituent Assembly from United Province, and she talked about various issues such as preamble, preventive detention. Preventive detention becomes, Article 20 and Article 21 of the Constitution of India, which talks about, if you are arrested, then, what should you do? So those rights are there as a fundamental rights in our Constitution. And later she became member of UP Legislative Assembly. Now, because many of these women, they went to jail, so they have this experience of, how people are being treated in jail. And therefore, she was talking about rights of detained person. She said that because of our own experience, we have seen how political prisoners are being treated, within the jails. So she said that, the person who is being detained should be given all those rights, such as presenting the person before, 24 hours before the magistrate, and the charges should be framed within 24 hours, and then, they should be given facilities within the prison. So she was talking about all those issues. Then we have Rajkumari Amrit Kaur. Now, she was born in Lucknow in Punjab's Kapurthala royal family. In 1927, she co-founded the All India Women's Conference and served as secretary in 1930 and became president in 1933. She also joined Gandhi's Sevagram Ashram, and she was elected to Constituent Assembly from Central Province and the Berar Province. She was a prominent member of Fundamental Rights Subcommittee and Minorities Subcommittee. Within the subcommittee, she advocated for constitutional protection of against. Later, she became India's first health minister. She established All India Institute of Medical Sciences. She became the deputy leader of Indian delegation at UNESCO and the first female president of World Health Organization. Now, we have this All India Institute of Medical Science right here in the heart of Delhi, but I never knew, that she was behind, formulating this. She was like, she formulated this idea of having this aims. Now, it's later when I, dig about her, I came to know. So I really felt bad that, why they're not teaching us about all these things in schools and colleges. So, she said that child marriage is eating as a canker into vitality of our national life. So girls become mother while they are children themselves and bring into world the offsprings who are in very nature of thing the victim of diseases and ill health. She was talking about abolition of early marriage and parda and spread of female education. And her, you can see her picture, which was published in the Times, international magazine called Times. So, at that point of time, these women, went into, they have this global fame, but, in post-colonial India, we have forgotten about them. Then we have Renuka Ray, and she went on to receive education from Loreto House School in Kolkata. She was a legal secretary to All India Women Conference and authored a report called Legal Disability of Women in India, a plea for a commission of inquiry. Roy was elected to Constituent Assembly from West Bengal, and she made several interventions in Assembly, including women's rights issues, minority rights, and bicameral legislature provision. She represented India in UN General Assembly in 1949, and later she became elected. She was elected as to West Bengal legislature in 1952 and Parliament in 1957. So she was opposing the reservation of seats for women. Now today we are talking about that why we are not implementing women reservation law. But at that point of time, again, these women were saying that we don't want special privileges and reservation, we want equality. So that is the whole idea of reservation and the equality, and which we haven't been able to find the solution as yet. So next person is Sarojini Naidu. So she was born in Hyderabad. She became the first Indian woman to preside in an Indian National Congress in 1925. She was involved in non-cooperation movement, home rule movement, salt satyagraha, and was arrested several times. In 1917, she headed the All India Women's Deputation and championed women's suffrage. Naidu was appointed to Constituent Assembly from Bihar, and she spoke about the importance of adopting a national flag in the assembly. Nadu was appointed as the governor of Uttar Pradesh from 15th August 1947, and she held this office till 1949. Now, she shared her specific experience when these, women who they from India, they went to an international conference in Berlin, and one day the association planned to have a flag parade. Now, India doesn't have that official flag at that point of time. So what these women do, they tore their saris and they make us a flag so that India should not be humiliated. And that's because India don't have a national banner. So that's why this importance of flag came in, and she spoke about. She has written so many poetry on flags and different kinds of issues. So you can read that; it's very interesting. The next person is Sujeta Kriplani. She was born in Ambala, Punjab. She was involved in Quit India movement, and she was elected to Constituent Assembly from the United Province. She accompanied Gandhi to Bengal during the India partition riots. She played a crucial role in rehabilitation of refugees during the partition of India. Later, she became a member of provincial parliament, first Lok Sabha and second Lok Sabha. And she also held important positions such as Minister of Labour, Community Development and Industry. Next person is Vijayalakshmi Pandit. She was born in Nehru family. Pandit was elected to Constituent Assembly from United Province. Post independence, she has a diplomatic career, and she represented India to various countries, to Moscow, to Washington, Mexico, and various other countries. And when she returned to India, she was appointed as governor of Maharashtra. So she was talking about the role India can play, within the global dynamic. How important India can, become a messenger of peace, at the global level. Many of these women have global achievements. For example, Hansa Mehta, Vijayalakshmi Pandit, Lakshmi Menon, Begum Shaista Krimullah, Begum Sharifa Hamid Ali. They went to the United Nations Commission, and they participated in making of Universal Declaration of Human Rights. These pictures, some of them are there on the internet. You can, you just search on the internet and find them. That how they played a significant role, in the global discussion about women's rights, about human rights, about minority rights, and so many other issues. They have played a significant role. And one of the person, Johnson Klein, and he noted about Hansa Mehta. He said that Hansa Mehta, the Indian representative, was an active member of Indian National Congress, and she has played a very significant role but she's an intelligent person and clear thinker. But her effectiveness was somewhat limited by the fact that she spoke in a barely audible whisper. Now, these are the kind of comments people were making at the global level. But when you see the Constitution of India, the final copy, it has only 11 members have signed this Constitution of India. 11 women have signed this thing, because many have left and many shifted after partition. So only 11 women have signed the Constitution of India. Now, what is the legacy they have left for us, and why should we remember them? Now, during the colonial times, there were a lot of discussion about child marriage. There was whole debate, because the women could get married at at the age of 10, and then they faced a lot of problems because of early marriage. Many were dying, so maternal mortality rate was very high. So they talked about making of the law, the child marriage law. It is called Sharda Act in 1929. There were a lot of debate about this issue. Now, when the bill was presented, in the parliament, many of the men, the Indian men, they oppose. They say, no, this is against our shastras, and how can you do that? And now these women said that no, if your shastras are saying that, this thing, then we want new shastras. So these are the kind of what audacity of these women, the courage they have shown to really to change the law. And today we enjoyed so many rights. We talk about fundamental rights, we talk about equality, because these women have fought for us. So they have laid foundation for gender equality, which is resonating today, and it empower us for demanding our rights. They played a significant role in shaping the preamble of the Constitution, the fundamental rights and directive principles, and they talk about protecting the rights of marginalized groups. So, as a rigorous efforts by these women, that we today are enjoying our rights, and they are kind of role model for us. They created a revolution, for women's right, and they played a significant role in governance, and they act as a role model and source of inspiration for all of us. But there is a criticism about these women are being criticized for being coming from elite families. But if you go back and see the social context, at that point of time, in 1930, the census of India, the survey showed that the female literacy rate was very less. It was 2.39%. In 1947, it rose to barely 8%. And today we see the female literacy rate is around 70%. But how many women are there in top positions or decision-making bodies? If you talk about Supreme Court, you talk about Parliament, you can see, how many women are there today in the Supreme Court, how many women are there in Parliament or even in high courts. Of course, we have 73rd Amendment Act because of that, we have 1.4 million women in panchayats. But again, if you see the study, you will find that, many of the studies you have seen, the men are playing role and women are acting as dummies. The panchayat patis and, all those things are there, and they are affecting, how women are participating in governance. So at that point of time, they have this restrictions in terms of mobility, work, the patriarchy and misogyny was much more stronger. So, which is, which we are seeing right now also. But at that point of time, because of illiteracy, because of ignorance, because of superstitions, a lot of things were going on. And then if you talk about elitism in that context, how can this argument, will you talk about that? Now, this Hansa Mehta, I'll just, talk about her quote. She said, what we have asked for is social justice. We have asked for that equality which alone can be the basis of mutual respect and understanding, and without which real cooperation is not possible between man and woman. Women form one half of the population of this country, and therefore men cannot go long or very far without the cooperation of women. Sarojini Naidu, in her presidential address to All India Women Conference in 1930, she said, "We are not weak, timid, or meek women. We hold the courage. Savitri as our ideal. We know how Sita defied those entertained suspicions of her ability to keep her chastity. We possess the spirit of creative energy to legislate for the model of the world." So, with this, I'll just end this conversation, and we can take questions and discussions, and we can talk more about them. I'll just stop sharing here, and we can take questions. So, back to you, Shrutika.
Thank you. Thank you, Shalu ma'am, for your very insightful session. Now we'll be moving on to the Q&A segment. We'll be presenting a compilation of questions from the Google Form responses. We'll also be taking a few additional questions at the end from the participants. So feel free to unmute and put your questions later on. Now I request the participants to first unmute and go forward with your questions. Yes, you can unmute and start talking. Alok Ranjan. Kindly unmute.
Good evening.
Yes, thank you.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Good evening, ma'am. Thank you for insightful session. My question is, what lesson can today's youth, especially the law student, learn from their contribution and the struggles of a women?
Sorry, you want to ask that what can we learn from these struggles? Hello?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. The founding mothers.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so what can we learn from founding mothers? You say that what have you learned just listening about, in very brief, we have just talked about them. So what have you learned? Like what I learned is about, how they have shown this courage, and talked about, and given us our fundamental rights. About they have gone to the global level and talked about human rights, and they have made significant contribution in the making of Universal Declaration of Human Rights. During that time when not many women were given the opportunity to come out to even get educated, these women have shown that kind of courage, and now today they are kind of role model for many people like me, because they have given us the Constitution of India, and because of that Constitution we have got this right to equality, right to freedom of speech, right to move across the country. So we have got all those rights because these women fought for our rights. They really made sure that these rights are being inserted in the Constitution. We enjoyed all those rights. So I find this very interesting.
Means, ma'am, at that time, they broke the societal barriers and the stereotypes regarding the women, that women cannot participate in any election and cannot be a leader. It can be a role model that the today youth or today women can learn from them.
Yes, and even the gender equality, the whole concept of women's right. Uh, they talked about eradicating all those social evils such as child marriage, such as parda, and all kind of discriminatory laws. And today we have got this right to equality. And today we see that after 75 years, what we are seeing today is that, of course, they have written the right to equality within the Constitution, but in practice, we are failing. We are not, there's a huge gap between what is being written on the paper and what is being implemented on the ground. We have various laws about, the women's rights. We have Domestic Violence Act, we have Dowry Act, we have so many other laws. We have rape laws. But what is happening on the ground? Those laws are not being implemented properly. So just the problem, the failure is on our part. as people of India, as state, as wherever you are, like, we have failed to keep the constitutional promises.
Thank you, ma'am, for such an valuable insights and for such an informative session.
Thank you for your question. Yeah, we have another one in chat box. Would you like to unmute yourself and share?
अंकल कह रहे हैं दो जीन्स वो ज्यादा बड़ा था तो उसको काटना है तो कितना लगेगा पैसा पैसे जोड़ना नहीं है
Yes, anybody who's asking, who would like to ask questions?
Ma'am, the question in the chat box is asking about the recommendations of any books or any other sources in which they can learn about women's participants in Constitutional Assembly.
Yes, I have written a book in 2016 along with one of my colleague, and I think that was the first time. Earlier the records were scattered. Somebody has written about one woman, other person has written about another woman, but it was not cohesive kind of a record. But in 2016, me and my colleague, we have written a book on the founding mothers, 15 women architects of the Constitution of India. This book is available on the internet. And after that, so many other people have written books. The one is the book by on Republic of India by Achyut Chetan. There were other people are also now writing more and more books. But during 2016, when me and my colleague we were trying to do research, we found that there was not much material which was available on the internet or anywhere else around in the library. It was just very scattered. But right now, during the COVID, and a lot of material has come on the internet. So if you do the Google search, you will find a whole lot of material and different pages. Now even the government sites also you can go, and they have also put some of the material on the internet. So you can just search for it if you do a Google search.
Yes, thank you very much, ma'am. The next person who wants to ask the question can unmute and talk.
Good evening, ma'am. My question is that there is a concept of representative in. We have seen that in municipality there is a reservation of women, and there is a person who is maybe his husband or something like that. They represent themselves. So, is this concept actually upliftment the participation in legislation, or just in numbers the female are participating in legislation?
Yeah, you have raised an important question now. This is about how men are hijacking the position which is being given to women. The power is given to women that the women should become panchayat members or municipality members by the 73rd Amendment Act. But what has happened is that men, again, they don't want to give power. So if we talk about women's reservation bill, it has been kept pending for so many years, and even recently only it was passed. And even after it was passed, we don't know when women will get elected. When women will get 1/3 seats in the parliament, because it has certain caveats. But the issue is that why men don't want to give power, whether we talk about homes, whether we talk about parliaments, whether we talk about courts, why men don't want to give powers to women, decision-making power, or even otherwise. So the panchayat patis and all those concepts which came in because men want to grab power. They don't want to share it with women. Now you tell me why men don't want to share power with women. What is the reason? Women have to fight so much, whether at home or at in the parliament or even at workplaces. We have to fight so much for for decision making. So even till now, we have this concept of that women will have to ask her husband. If I have to go to my my parents' house, I have to take permission from my husband. Why this is so? So why that woman's autonomy is being restricted by men? So I have this question for you. So if you have any ideas, please do share.
Actually, ma'am, I have I want to ask this, that is this representative like Pradhan Prati or something like is helping or degrading the scene of representation, like there is any data of sort of. And one more thing is that in the parliament there is also a bill, and if that bill comes, and there is also another concept comes for that also, like representative of MPs, then how will it impact?
No, see, we women want complete autonomy, and this is why that is the reason that we have been asking for reservation, for so long. For I think more than now 30 or 40 years, we have been demanding reservation, whether in panchayats, whether in parliaments, or even in courts. But again, the concept of Pradhanpati is not helping us. It is degrading women. This Pradhanpati concept is infantilizing women. That means you are treating women like children. Why women can't rule? Women have equal power, equal, now they are educated. They have this. They are working on, as CEOs, as on different positions. So why can't they take their own decisions as a pradhan, as gram pradhan, as municipality ka pradhan, as in parliament as MPs? So this is what we are fighting for. We are fighting for women's autonomy, that we want to take all our decisions on our own, and not only our decisions. And we are managing homes for ages. Women have been managing homes. They're taking care of children, they're taking care of elderlies and other family members. So can't they run the country? Can't they run the organizations? Can't they run the Supreme Court? Can't we take the similar decisions what male judges are taking? So this is what we want: equality. We want equal representation, but men are not giving us. So even if we write equality in the constitution, we write equality, we talk about Article 15, which says that the state can make special laws for women and children and marginalized community, and under that we have been given certain rights. So why men are not allowing us to really, to really enjoy our freedom, to enjoy those power? So that is my entire question. Have been able to answer
Thank
your
you,
question?
ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. People are raising their hands. Next, Amit Srivatsava, you can unmute and ask your question.
Good evening, ma'am.
Yeah,
Myself,
good evening.
Amit Srivastav. May I audible, ma'am? Hello.
Yes, yeah, please, your voice is
Ma'am, am I audible to
yeah,
you?
yeah,
Yes, Your Honor.
yeah, please say.
How do you know? It is fine or not now? Yeah. Can you listen me now?
Yes,
Hello.
yes.
Ma'am,
Amit,
am I
Amit,
audible
you're
now?
very much audible. Can you please ask the question? We can hear you.
Ma'am, I have a very sensitive question that I have ever seen and ever learned and ever heard about it. And I've also due to some research work on this, and I'm researching on this topic. But I need some extra more research and experience learning. So I would like to raise the question of my point of view. What do you opinion about the post as men? Uh, as we know that posh is handled for women for safety at workplace. But as a man, if we look at posh as a man, then what would be the main loopholes and critiques of that posh? Can you please take a
Can you repeat the question? I really couldn't get it. At the workplace, sorry, I couldn't get the question. If somebody, Anisha, if you could. Um,
Amit, we couldn't hear you properly. Can you please put your question in the chat box, and we'll ask the next person to ask their question in the meanwhile. And ma'am, can you get back to it when he puts it in the chat box?
Ma'am, give me one more chance. Am I audible now?
Yes, you're
yes.
audible now.
Yeah. My question was that on Posh, we know that the Posh generally used for women, but as a man, what can be the loopholes and critics of the Posh? Can you please take a light on this?
Yeah, so the Posh Act is about, you have to look into the history of making the Posh Act. Now, this act was made, after Bhavari Devi was raped, in Jaipur in Rajasthan during the decades of 90. Now, there was an issue of caste which was involved. There was issue of, she was from lower caste, and she was working as a, ASHA worker, for the health schemes. Uh, Her job was to prevent child marriage, and she went to a village to prevent the child marriage of the head of the village. Yeah, and in retaliation, that the entire the family of that that Gujjar family, they raped her, and they beat her husband, and they raped her. And after that, the state refused to help her. Because she was employed with the state, it was a duty of the state to help her, but the state refused to help her, and therefore, the group of women organization, they went to the Supreme Court, and then they filed a petition, and then the Supreme Court came out with that guideline called Vishakha's judgment, and you can read this Vishakha judgment. And after that, there was a lot of protests, because many organizations did not reinforce this Vishakha judgment, and therefore the women's organization fought for this Posh Act. And in 2013, this law on sexual harassment, preventing that sexual harassment at the workplace, was made. Now, after going through this history, now coming to the implementation. Now, the law says that it is the duty of the employer to protect women at the workplace, so that there should be no incidents of sexual harassment at the workplace. But what we are seeing, what the data says. The data says that not many of the organizations have made the sexual harassment committees at the workplace. So you have to look at the data, that many women couldn't. First of all, as a woman employee, I have a problem in raising my voice, because the very first thing what the employers do is to really throw the woman out. Now, if despite of that pressure, even if I complained against a man that was harassing me, so instead of helping me, the employers are helping that man. So what should I do? So the law provide for all kind of provisions, but the problem is with the implementation of the law. So that is the entire, like, we can discuss about this maybe in another session, because it will take an entire session to explain the Posh law and how it is not being implemented. There was whole data about that. But the thing is that these kind of problems are there, because again and again, the problem is that we can have very good laws on paper, but when it comes to implementation, again, the mindset, the attitude is something that we don't we can't implement this law in the full spirit with which it is made. So that is the entire problem with the Posh law, and even with the domestic violence, or even with the dowry law, we have all these problems.
Ma'am, I was a question raised that अगर पॉश एज अ मैन हम देखें तो उसके लूपहोल्स एंड क्रिटिक्स क्या हो सकते हैं? आई हैव टू डू अ वर्क और यू कैन से दैट research paper. I have to get ready a research paper on Posh. That's why I really need help of you and more experience of you that about the Posh as a man. अगर Posh में men के लिए क्या क्राइटेरियाज हैं, क्या लूप होल्स हैं, क्या क्रिटिक्स हैं? I want to know that.
सी वो पॉश का स्पेसिफिक एरिया मेन के लिए क्या चीज है उसमें ये there is a section which says if a woman file a false complaint, then she could be penalized. Now women's movement is against this clause, but for men this is one clause which give them power, because court may, what is happening is when I go to the court taking the complaints of the women, what is happening in the court is, and I am really being a feminist, being working with women's organizations, I have handled a lot of cases of women, and I've seen how men are misusing the law. It's not the women who are misusing the law, it's the men who are misusing the law. And how they're misusing, I'll tell you one case of we are going this is not the direction which we should be going, but just for 2 minutes I'll just share one case of mine. And recently it happened. A woman journalist working with a senior journalist working with a newspaper organization, a very well-known newspaper organization. She filed a complaint against her boss, and it was 25 years back. And this case in trial court issued a judgment in her favor. But this employer, because he doesn't want to do anything and he was helping the man, they filed an appeal in the High Court. And the High Court, this case went in for several years, for so many years, and finally the woman died a few days back. Just because what they have done is they have filed the whole record, so many pages and pages, so it'll take years to read those pages, and the courts are not ready, they don't have time, and therefore this judgment was being delayed, and finally the woman has died without justice. And that is my whole problem, that how the men are misusing the law. And I'm sorry, you said that how it is helping men. Sorry, it's it's not helping women. It's being made to help women, but it's not helping women. I'm sorry, we are just diverting from this issue of founding mothers. We have gone into another area of posh law. We can have this chat maybe later on, or maybe at some other platform. So maybe we can take more question about the founding mothers, and this question about sexual harassment law, we can take it at maybe at later.
Okay, ma'am. It was a very nice enlightenment to me, and it's a very pleasure to me that I meet you and for this insightful session. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you for this question, but we'll talk about it later, maybe.
Okay, ma'am. Okay.
Yeah, with some more questions.
Yes, ma'am. There are a few questions in the chat box as well.
May I speak? Hello?
Yes, please.
Yes, may I speak? Yeah. So, ma'am, like you said, that this topic was about the founding mothers, but the whole point, I believe, was to empower women.
Yes.
But yes. So I have typed a question in the text box. Can you please read that and answer to me?
Yeah, can you please read the question yourself? You can ask so that other people can also hear it.
Yes, sure, ma'am. So I've written, in my point of view, women's participation in the governments is because of patriarchy, the patriarchal mindset of the people. So women are more vulnerable to the abuse. They're not even safe in public. And some women, there are some cases where in the family kinships only, women are getting, small children are getting sexually violated. So I think so don't you think that this is severely affecting the development and the upliftment of the women, especially the marginalized sections and in the rural areas? So, what measures in the legal framework is there? What are the laws for women that can reduce this thing?
Yeah, so there are a whole set of laws. If you talk about the children, there is a POSCO Act, prevention of sexual harassment against the child, and we also have made fast track courts to deal with the cases which are coming under the POSCO law. And even in the criminal procedure, Indian Penal Code and Criminal Procedure Code, several amendments have been made to deal with the issue of the child abuse, the child being raped by the family members or by acquaintances or by neighbors or by anyone. If the child is being raped, that is considered as a very, very serious crime, and the courts take serious note of that. And if you talk about It's not only in rural areas. It's also like, if we talk about child discrimination within the families. Now,
Yes.
even in South Delhi, there was a whole survey done in 2011. The male-female sex discrimination. So we have less number of girl child as compared to number of boy child, the child sex ratio, which we call it. Now, this is in South Delhi areas, which is known to be a very, posh and educated area. Now, in that area, the child sex ratio in, like for example, in Kerala, it's 1051 women per thousand, boys. But in South Delhi, posh area, we have 828 girl children per thousand male children. Now, where are these missing girls? Now, generally, it is said that they are being killed because in North India, there is this whole culture of, the girls being female feticide, female infanticide. Now, these kind of issues are more prevalent in North, region, because the parents are killing girl child because they don't want to give dowry. Raising the girl child means that she will go and she will take a dowry, and then so the parents have to give dowry. So therefore, mostly these educated parents are using sophisticated scientific techniques. And for this, women's movement has fought for years. And then we got PCPNDT Act, that is Prevention of Prenatal Diagnostic Techniques Act in 1997, which came in. And then finally, under that law, the doctors are being penalized that they shouldn't tell the sex of the fetus, when the woman is pregnant, so that woman can't kill. But still, it is going on. So the thing is that we have laws, and we have so many beautiful laws written on paper. Again and again, I'm saying that they're not being implemented properly, and therefore we're not getting justice. So the same is with the POSCO Act. POSCO cases. Now, a lot of child rape cases are coming to the courts, and I am going to the courts, dealing with those cases. But what is happening is that when the child is young, it's very difficult for the child to communicate, the kind of issues she has faced. And then the problem is that the parents ask the children to really, to shut up, to really don't say anything, because again, the family honor, the honor of the family is there. What people will say. There's a whole lot of stigma. What will, she will not get married. So all kind of things parents think about, and that is the reason that they are not willing to take on the case, to continue with the case, because in the courts, again, even if we have fast track courts, it will take a long time to get a judgment. And then the family of the abusers, they put a lot of pressure on the family of the victim. So, these kind of dynamics, you have to understand that once we are living in a society, there are a lot of power dynamics which operate. And to understand this power dynamics, we have to really see and talk to people around us, and to find out what is happening around exactly. Because once you read the law on paper, it's very, very different. And once you go to the court and you just sit silently in the court one day with your phone off, and just listen and observe around you, you will see a lot of things which are happening around the way the abuser and the victims interact in the court, the way that the judges see, the way the lawyers handle the case, and you try to understand the situation. So it's very difficult if you go to the court. So when we talk about empowering women, we have very good laws on paper, but again and again, enforcement is a problem. So that is, again, we have rape laws. We have very good rape laws, but what it comes to when we talk about Hathras case, when we talk about the recent Ankita Bhandari and so many other cases, what is happening at the ground level? So you have to see the difference.
Yes,
So
yes,
that comes about the whole question of empowerment is stuck there.
yes,
That's
ma'am.
all.
And also this whole thing is deeply rooted in the patriarchy and the mindset, and also it's because of the caste-based discrimination and the gendered biasness.
Yeah. So the patriarchy is the mindset has not changed. So we talk about equality in the constitution, we talk about empowerment, we have so many of policies, laws, and everything. But when it comes to implementation, the mindset, the attitude has not changed. So in the Supreme Court, we have just if you see the history of Supreme Court since 1950 till today, how many women judges are there in the Supreme Court? Why they're not being allowed to come into the Supreme Court. There's so many women lawyers who are there in the Supreme Court. Senior lawyers are there, but they're not being taken into the as judges. So again, how the mindset operate within the court, within the parliament, within even the families. So you have to change this mindset. Yeah, sorry.
Yes, only reservation will not work. We have to change the mindset.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yes. Other questions?
Good evening, ma'am.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ma'am, how many further questions are you willing to take, ma'am?
It's okay. We can go on. What is the time right now? It's 8:15, and your session ends at 8:30 or what?
8:30. We'll have a formal vote of thanks and feedback form filling before that as well, ma'am. But we can extend it if you're willing to take further questions.
Yeah, I can take more questions. No questions.
Okay, ma'am. Can we go with 2 more questions, ma'am?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Anyone, please unmute. Thank you, sir.
Good evening, ma'am.
Yeah, good evening.
My question is about when women in pre-independence movement emerged largely from grassroots struggles, but contemporary women parliamentarians are increasingly from elite and dynastic way. So what will be the outcome of this, ma'am?
Yeah, it's a right question, because at that point of time, when we talk about the founding mothers, that point of time, the female literacy rate was just 2%, but now it is 70%. So people have to come from grassroots levels. They are educated people at grassroots levels. They have a lot of knowledge about different issues. The problem is that they have to come to the parliament, they have to come to the panchayats, they have to come to the local courts or the high courts or the Supreme Courts, wherever. So the thing is that how should we reduce this distance, so that more and more women could participate in decision making bodies, whether at village level, whether at family level, or even at parliament or Supreme Court, wherever it is. So we have to take steps that those women at the grassroots, how should they come? So talk about let us talk about a hospital. Now, if we have so many doctors, women doctors who are there working in the hospital, but the management is not willing to give the role of director to any women. Now, why this is happening? So we have to really go into the depth of that kind of thing, like to do more research on these issues, that why a woman who is working as a doctor within a local hospital, she's not given this role of director. A man will be called from outside or from inside, and then that man will be given the role of director. So why this is happening? So to talk about even within the families, why the women are not being given the decision making role. We still say that a man is the head of the family, man is the head of the household, man is a breadwinning. But even today, women are earning their breads. So we have to really change that mindset starting from our own selves. So we have to start questioning within our own families that that those are the stereotypes which needs to be removed. And from families, we have to move further to maybe village, to maybe local communities, municipalities, and slowly we have to make changes. So first of all, we have to start with ourselves. So even I have to ask question within my own family. I have to, with my parents, with my, in-laws, with my relatives, I have to ask this question every day. I have to challenge them that, okay, why are you doing this? Why I'm not being given this, I'm educated lawyer, but then why you're not giving me this role of, doing something, say organizing a family event within a family. So, these kind of things have to start from my own self, and that's how we can bring a change.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Can we take up one final question? Sophia, do you want to unmute and ask? Sophia, do you want to unmute and ask the question? Okay. I think, Sophia, you're not being audible. We are very happy to have such an enthusiastic participation in this webinar, but due to time constraints, we would like to wrap up the Q&A segment now. I now invite Roma, our president, to share a few words on the webinar.
Sophia, just to, I'm really sorry to interrupt, but due to time constraint, we have to wrap up the webinar because it's already 8:20 p.m. I really hope you understand. So with that, I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to everybody here. Good evening, everyone. I'm Roba Ramkumar, the president of Tamil Nadu Legal Rights Consortium. And as we come to the end of this very beautiful webinar, I promise I'll try to keep this as much as short as possible. But firstly, a very huge thank you to our esteemed speaker, Ms. Shalu Nigam, ma'am. Thank you for your time, your insight, and for making this session very engaging. And honestly, your questions and the way you answered make us feel like, really connected to the topic as well. Now, coming to the real stars of today, our core committee of TNLRC, starting with the social media team. Sutika and Navodita, thank you for making sure our event didn't just exist, but actually good online, because that is what brought us a lot of audiences. Karen, I hope you're here. Thank you for your constant effort and for making sure people actually showed up and not just saw the poster for the event. And moving on to the outreach team, Ramya, thank you for always being dependable and stepping up like it's your second, setting. Mugilarasi, your coordination skills in handling all the event and the WhatsApp group is amazing. Yoga Lakshmi, thank you for being so sincere and committed throughout the event. Anju, your energy was exactly what this team needed today. And Amrita, thank you for your quiet but very strong contribution. And Swati, thank you for always being there for us. Now to our event management team, a very big shout out to my event management team because without them, this event would have not happened here today. Swati, thank you for keeping everything under structure. Archana, your attention to detail has made a very big difference today. Bhavya, thank you for handling everything so calmly while the rest of us were internally panicking throughout the event. Pallavi, your effort and involvement truly strengthened the team. And Akshaya, even though she's not here, we appreciate efforts towards the event. Now, I'm going to take a very slightly emotional turn. Very, very special thanks to Nivriti here because I generally do not think this event or even TLRC as the event management team would continue to do what we do today without Nivriti. Her dedication in pulling off this event is very appreciable and we are so grateful for you. And to our Vice President Shiny, thank you for being in constant support throughout this session because I remember having constant mental breakdowns in organizing this event and Shiny is always there constantly trying to support me throughout and telling me, Akka, we'll do this off, we'll pull this off. So thank you, Shiny. And TNLRC will not be here today without Shiny here today. And lastly, to all the participants here, thank you for being here, listening, and for not leaving halfway, which is honestly the biggest compliment that you get for any online event. And this was a first webinar as a new team. So kudos to the entire team for being present and pulling off this event amazingly. And I hope that we could continue to do more such events. And with that, thank you once again to everyone who made this possible. Have a wonderful evening ahead. With that, we'll have a formal vote of thanks, followed by which the feedback forms will be sent. Just a reminder that the participation certificates will be given only when the feedback forms are being filled. So I kindly request everyone to stay in the meeting.
Finally, thank you, Roma. Finally, I invite Navodita, a very beloved member of TNLRC, to render the formal vote of thanks.
Good evening, everyone. As we come to the end of this webinar, I would like to take a moment to express our sincere gratitude to everyone who contributed to this session meaningfully. We extend our heartfelt thanks to Advocate Shalu ma'am for sharing her time, knowledge, and insights with us today. Now, your session offered a thoughtful perspective on the contributions of the founding mothers of the Constitution and helped us better appreciate their role in shaping our legal and social framework. We truly value your work and commitment to bringing these important narratives to light. I would also like to thank all the participants, students, professionals, and scholars who joined us today. Your engagement and interest made this session more interactive and worthwhile. Your willingness to learn and reflect is what keeps such sessions relevant and impactful. We also extend our appreciation to everyone who joined us through the YouTube live stream. Your presence beyond this virtual room reflects the wider discussions, and we are glad to have had you all with us. A special note of thanks to WICI members, Advocate Vaishnavi ma'am and Advocate Atriga ma'am for their support and contribution in organizing and facilitating this session. As we conclude, I hope we take forward not just information but a deeper awareness of the values and efforts that have shaped our Constitution. Before we end, we would also like to share that our consortium has an upcoming legal quiz competition scheduled in April. We encourage all of you to stay connected with us and participate in the same. On behalf of the Tamil Nadu Legal Rights Consortium, I thank you all once again for being a part of the session. We look forward to your participation in our future events. Thank you.
Thank you, Navita. With that, we'd like to end the session. The feedback forms will be sent now in the Google chat. So we request the participants to kindly fill out the feedback form. So please mention your name correctly and all the details that you want to be in the certificates. Only on filling the feedback form, your certificate will be issued. I repeat again, only on filling the feedback form, the certificates will be issued for the event. Thank you. You can leave only if you finish the feedback form. Please don't leave without finishing the form.
So thank you once again, everyone, all the participants and the entire team, for organizing this event. So I'll just take a leave. Thank you once again, and
Thank
you
you,
can
ma'am.
write to me. You can contact me. All my writings are available on the internet, so you can go through that. And any question, I will be happy to take it later on. Thank you once again. Bye bye.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. The pleasure was ours. Participant, please fill the feedback form. You can leave on finishing the feedback forms. Participants, you can leave after finishing the feedback. Alok, yes, we will send. We'll request ma'am to share the